The old cemetery lay silent under the pale morning sun when Elena Rodriguez first spotted the small figure huddled behind her grandmother's weathered headstone. She had come to place fresh flowers as she did every month, carrying white roses that reminded her of Abuela's gentle smile. But today was different. Today, someone else was seeking refuge among the sleeping stones. The boy couldn't have been more than 8 years old. His dark hair stuck up in all directions and his clothes hung loose on his thin frame. What struck Elena most were his eyes, wide and frightened, like a wounded animal's. He pressed himself deeper into the shadows when he saw her approaching. Clutching a torn backpack against his chest, Elena stopped walking and crouched down several feet away. She had worked with children long enough to recognize fear when she saw it. As a social worker, she encountered many scared kids, but something about this boy's desperate silence tugged at her heart differently. "Hello there," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm Elena. I come here to visit my grandmother sometimes. Are you visiting someone too?" The boy shook his head quickly, then seemed to catch himself and nodded instead. His confusion was heartbreaking. Elena noticed the fresh bruise coloring his left cheek and the way he favored his right arm. Her professional instincts kicked in. Immediately, "What's your name?" she asked, settling cross-legged on the grass to appear less threatening. "Marcus," came the barely audible reply. "That's a strong name. Are you here alone, Marcus?" He glanced around nervously before nodding. Elena's heart clenched. She had seen too many children in similar situations, running from homes where love should have lived but violence reigned instead. "Are you hungry?" she asked. "I have some crackers in my car." Marcus's stomach answered before he could, growling loudly enough to make his cheeks flush with embarrassment. Elena smiled gently and slowly reached into her purse, pulling out a granola bar she always kept for emergencies. "Here," she said, placing it on the ground between them. "Take your time." Marcus eyed the food like it might disappear if he looked away. When he finally grabbed it, his hand shook as he tore open the wrapper. Elena watched him eat with the desperation of someone who hadn't seen food in days. "Marcus, is someone looking for you? Family, maybe?" The boy's face darkened, and he shrank back against the headstone. "I can't go back. He said he'd kill me this time. He really meant it." Elena's blood ran cold. She had heard those words too many times before, but they never got easier. "Who said that, sweetheart?" "My stepdad. Mom's boyfriend, I mean. She brought him home 3 months ago and he hates me. Says I'm in the way." Marcus's voice broke on the last words. "Yesterday he pushed me down the stairs because I spilled juice on his newspaper. Mom saw it happen, but she didn't say anything. She just looked away." Elena felt familiar anger rising in her chest. How many children had to suffer because adults failed to protect them? How many mothers looked the other way when monsters moved into their homes? "Marcus, I work with children who are in tough situations like yours. There are safe places where you can stay, places where no one will hurt you." "Foster homes?" Marcus asked, his voice filled with skepticism. "I've heard about those. Kids at school say they're worse than staying home. Some people say that because they're scared of change," Elena explained carefully. "But I know good families, safe families, people who actually care about kids like you." Marcus studied her face intently as if trying to determine whether she could be trusted. Elena remained perfectly still, letting him make the assessment on his own terms. "You really help kids?" "Every day. It's my job, but it's also my calling. I became a social worker because I believe every child deserves to feel safe and loved." Something in Elena's tone must have convinced him because Marcus's shoulders relaxed slightly. "What would happen if I went with you?" "First, we'd get you checked by a doctor to make sure you're okay. Then we'd find you a temporary safe place to stay while we figure out the best long-term solution." "And Marcus?" She waited until he met her eyes. "No one would be allowed to hurt you. Ever again." Tears began flowing down Marcus's dirt-stained cheeks. "You promise?" "I promise with everything in me." It took another hour of gentle conversation before Marcus agreed to leave the cemetery with Elena. She called her supervisor from her car, while Marcus waited, explaining the situation and requesting immediate emergency placement. By the time they reached the county building, Elena had already mentally prepared herself for the mountain of paperwork ahead. The medical examination confirmed what Elena suspected. Marcus had endured months of systematic abuse. Old bruises in various stages of healing covered his torso and arms. The doctor spoke in hushed tones about malnutrition and possible internal injuries. While Marcus underwent evaluation, Elena worked her contacts. The Johnson family had recently been approved for emergency placements, and she trusted them implicitly. Sarah and David Johnson had fostered over 30 children in 15 years, treating each one like their own. When Elena explained Marcus's situation to Sarah Johnson over the phone, there wasn't a moment's hesitation. "Bring him home," Sarah said simply. "We'll be ready." That evening, as Elena drove Marcus to his new temporary home, she watched him in the rearview mirror. He sat quietly, still clutching his torn backpack, but his eyes had lost some of their hunted look. "Elena?" Marcus said as they pulled into the Johnsons' driveway. "Yes, sweetie? Thank you for finding me today. I was ready to give up." Elena's throat tightened. "I'm glad I found you too, Marcus. And remember, this is just the beginning. Things are going to get better." She had no idea how prophetic those words would prove to be, or how the scared little boy she'd rescued that day would one day return the favor when she needed saving most. 5 years had passed since that morning in the cemetery, and Marcus Williams had transformed from a frightened boy into a confident teenager. The Johnson family had officially adopted him after 2 years, giving him the stable home he'd never known existed. But Elena Rodriguez remained a constant presence in his life, checking in regularly and celebrating every milestone. Elena sat in the Johnsons' living room, watching Marcus practice his presentation for the high school debate team. At 13, he possessed an intelligence that impressed his teachers and a determination that reminded Elena why she loved her job. The scared little boy was still there sometimes, in quiet moments when he thought no one was looking, but mostly, he radiated the confidence that came from being truly loved. "How did I do?" Marcus asked, finishing his argument about juvenile justice reform. "Brilliant as always," Elena replied. "You're going to make an excellent lawyer someday." "Actually," Marcus said, his expression growing serious, "I've been thinking about becoming a social worker instead. Like you." Elena felt her heart skip. "Really? Why?" "Because you saved my life. If you hadn't found me that day, if you hadn't cared enough to stop and talk to a scared kid hiding behind a gravestone, I don't know what would have happened to me." Marcus sat down across from her. "I want to do that for other kids. I want to be the person who finds them when they need saving." Sarah Johnson appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Dinner's ready, but don't let me interrupt this important conversation." "We're just talking about Marcus's future career plans," Elena explained. "Ah, the social worker discussion again." Sarah smiled warmly. "He's been bringing this up for months. I think he's serious about it." "I am serious," Marcus insisted. "Elena, would you help me? Maybe I could volunteer with your department during summer break, just to see if I'm really cut out for it." Elena considered the request carefully. Marcus was mature for his age, but social work exposed people to humanity's darkest corners. Still, his personal experience with the system could provide valuable insight. "I tell you what. Let me talk to my supervisor about setting up a junior volunteer program. You could help with filing, maybe assist with some of the less sensitive cases. But Marcus, this work can be hard. Really hard. It changes you. Everything worthwhile changes you," Marcus replied, a wisdom beyond his years evident in his voice. 3 weeks later, Marcus began spending his afternoons at the Department of Children and Family Services. Elena introduced him to the other caseworkers, who were initially skeptical about having a teenager around, but Marcus's quiet competence and genuine empathy quickly won them over. He proved particularly effective with younger children who were new to the system. His own experiences helped him connect with scared kids in ways the adult workers sometimes couldn't. Elena watched him during intake interviews, marveling at how naturally he put frightened children at ease. One afternoon, they were called to investigate a report of neglect involving twin 4-year-old girls. Elena and Marcus arrived at a rundown apartment building where the smell of garbage and despair hung heavy in the hallways. The girl's mother, Jessica, was clearly struggling with addiction, her eyes glassy and unfocused. The twins, Emma and Lily, clung to each other in the corner of a mattress on the floor. Their clothes were dirty, and Elena could see they hadn't bathed in days. The refrigerator contained only moldy leftovers and empty beer bottles. While Elena spoke with Jessica, Marcus sat on the floor near the girls. He didn't try to approach them immediately. Instead, he pulled out a small sketch pad he'd started carrying and began drawing. "What are you making?" Emma whispered, creeping slightly closer. "A butterfly," Marcus replied without looking up. "Would you like to see?" Both girls nodded, scooting closer to examine his simple but recognizable drawing. Marcus tore out the page and handed it to Emma. "Now it's yours. Butterflies are special because they start as caterpillars, all wrapped up and scared. But then they transform into something beautiful and free." Lily tugged on Marcus's sleeve. "Can you draw me one too?" "Of course." Marcus began another sketch. "What color should this butterfly be?" "Purple," Lily exclaimed, the first smile Elena had seen from either child. As Marcus drew with the girls, Elena completed her assessment. Jessica needed treatment, and the twins needed immediate placement. It was never easy to separate families, even when necessary for the children's safety. When Elena explained the situation to Jessica, the woman broke down sobbing. "I know I'm not doing good. I know they deserve better. I just don't know how to stop using. Every time I try, I just feel so empty inside." Elena had heard similar confessions countless times, but they still affected her. Addiction was a disease that destroyed everything in its path, especially innocent children. "There are treatment programs," Elena explained gently. "Good ones. If you're serious about getting clean, I can help connect you with resources. But Jessica, your girls can't. Wait while you figure this out. They need stability and safety now." The emergency placement process took 4 hours. The twins were placed with an experienced foster family Elena trusted, and Jessica was given information about treatment options. It was past 8 in the evening when Elena and Marcus finally left the office. "How do you do this every day?" Marcus asked as they walked to Elena's car. "Watching families fall apart, taking kids from their parents even when you know it's necessary?" Elena paused at her car door. "You remember what you told me about everything worthwhile changing you? This work breaks your heart regularly, but it also reminds you why love and family matter so much. Those little girls will have a chance now. Jessica might get clean and eventually reunite with them, or they might find a new family that can give them what they need. Either way, they're safe tonight because we intervened." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "It's like what you told me in the cemetery that day. Sometimes saving someone is just the beginning." "Exactly. And Marcus, you were incredible with Emma and Lily today. You have a gift for this work." As they drove home, Elena couldn't help but reflect on the strange turns life could take. The boy she'd saved 5 years ago was already showing signs of becoming the kind of social worker who could save others. She had no way of knowing that in just a few more years their roles would reverse completely, and Marcus would be the one doing the saving. 8 years had passed since Elena found Marcus in the cemetery, and now at 16 he towered over the woman who had saved his life. He had grown into a young man with broad shoulders and gentle hands, his dark eyes still holding traces of the frightened boy Elena remembered, but now filled with purpose and determination. Elena was proud beyond words. Marcus had maintained straight A's throughout high school while continuing his volunteer work at the department. College admissions officers were already reaching out, impressed by his unique combination of academic excellence and real-world experience in social services. But Elena's own life had taken an unexpected turn 6 months ago when she received devastating news. The doctor's words still echoed in her mind. Stage 3 breast cancer, aggressive treatment required, uncertain prognosis. She had faced many challenges in her 42 years, but nothing had prepared her for this battle. Elena tried to keep the diagnosis private initially, telling only her closest family members and taking sick leave for treatment. But hiding cancer proved impossible. The chemotherapy left her exhausted and nauseous, stealing her thick black hair and leaving her skin pale and drawn. When she finally returned to work wearing a colorful headscarf, her colleagues rallied around her with overwhelming support. Marcus noticed the changes immediately during one of his volunteer sessions. Elena had always been energetic, moving through the office with purpose and vitality. Now she moved more slowly, pausing frequently to catch her breath or steady herself against a desk. "Elena, are you feeling okay?" Marcus asked after watching her struggle through a case review meeting. "Just tired, sweetheart, it's been a long week." But Marcus wasn't convinced. He had spent enough time around the office to recognize when something was seriously wrong. Elena's supervisor, Janet Morrison, had been taking on more of Elena's caseload, and other workers kept shooting concerned glances in Elena's direction. After his volunteer shift, Marcus stayed behind to help Elena organize files. They worked in comfortable silence until Elena suddenly swayed on her feet, reaching out to grab the filing cabinet for support. "Elena!" Marcus was at her side instantly, steadying her with strong arms. "I'm fine, really. Just stood up too fast." Marcus guided her to a chair and knelt beside her, studying her face with the same intensity she had once used to assess his well-being. "You're not fine. Please talk to me. What's going on?" Elena looked into the eyes of the boy she had helped raise, seeing the man he was becoming. Marcus deserved honesty. He had faced his own darkness at such a young age. He could handle hers. "I have cancer, Marcus. Breast cancer. I've been getting treatment for 6 months now." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He rocked back on his heels, his face cycling through shock, fear, and finally fierce determination. "Why didn't you tell me? I should have been helping you, supporting you. You were 16 when I got diagnosed. You shouldn't have to worry about things like this." "Shouldn't have to worry?" Marcus's voice rose. "Elena, you saved my life. You gave me everything I have, my family, my future, my hope. And you think I shouldn't worry about you?" Elena reached out to touch his face, the gesture so familiar from years of comforting him during nightmares and difficult days. "Oh, sweetheart, I didn't want to burden you." "Burden me?" "Elena, you are my family. You're the most important person in my world besides Sarah and David. How could taking care of you ever be a burden?" That evening, Marcus called an emergency family meeting. He sat Sarah and David down in their living room and explained Elena's situation, his voice breaking as he described her weakened condition. "We need to do something," he said firmly. "She's been taking care of everyone else for years. Now she needs us." Sarah immediately began making plans. "I'll call her tomorrow and insist she come for dinner this weekend. We'll make sure she's eating properly." "I can drive her to appointments," David offered. "My schedule is flexible enough." "And I'm going to spend more time at the office," Marcus declared. "She's been hiding how much work is piling up, but I can see it. I can take on more responsibilities." Over the following weeks, the Johnson family quietly orchestrated a support system around Elena. Sarah appeared at her apartment with home-cooked meals and gentle insistence that Elena rest. David showed up for medical appointments, offering silent strength and practical help. And Marcus transformed from helpful volunteer into Elena's unofficial assistant, tackling paperwork and basic tasks with remarkable competence. Elena initially resisted their help, insisting she could manage alone. But her body betrayed her determination. The chemotherapy was brutal, leaving her barely functional for days after each treatment. Gradually, she began accepting their assistance, touched by the depth of their care. Marcus proved particularly valuable during client interactions. His own history gave him credibility with troubled families, and his natural empathy helped him connect with children in crisis. Elena watched him conduct intake interviews with sensitivity beyond his years, marveling at how the scared boy from the cemetery had developed into someone capable of offering strength to others. One particularly difficult case involved a 12-year-old named Antonio, whose father had abandoned the family and whose mother was struggling with severe depression. The boy was acting out at school, his grades plummeting as his home life deteriorated. Elena was scheduled to meet with Antonio and his mother, but a bad reaction to treatment left her too weak to leave her apartment. Marcus called to check on her and, learning about the appointment, volunteered to handle the initial meeting himself. "Marcus, you're still just a volunteer. I can't ask you to take on actual casework. You're not asking. I'm volunteering. And Elena, you trained me well. I know what questions to ask and when to involve other professionals. Let me help." Against her better judgment, Elena agreed. Marcus met with Antonio and his mother, spending 3 hours listening to their struggles and connecting them with appropriate resources. He identified the mother's need for psychiatric evaluation and Antonio's eligibility for tutoring services, then carefully documented everything for Elena's review. When Elena read Marcus's notes the next day, she was amazed by their thoroughness and insight. He had captured nuances she might have missed and made connections that showed real understanding of family dynamics. "You did exceptional work," she told him over the phone. "I'm genuinely impressed." "I learned from the best," Marcus replied. "Elena, I know you're going through hell right now, but I want you to know something. Everything you taught me, every skill you helped me develop, I'm using it to help other kids the way you helped me. Your influence is multiplying." Elena hung up the phone with tears in her eyes, overwhelmed by gratitude and pride. The boy she had saved was indeed becoming the man who could save others. She just hoped she would live to see him achieve his full potential. 10 years had passed since that fateful day in the cemetery. Elena, now cancer-free for 2 years, watched with immense pride as 21-year-old Marcus Williams walked across the graduation stage to receive his bachelor's degree in social work. The young man who accepted his diploma bore little resemblance to the terrified 8-year-old she had found hiding behind her grandmother's headstone, yet she could still see traces of that vulnerable child in his gentle smile. The entire Johnson family cheered from the audience as Marcus received recognition for graduating summa cum laude. Elena wiped away tears, remembering all the nights she had helped him with homework during middle school, all the college application essays they had reviewed together, and all the dreams they had shared about his future. After the ceremony, Marcus found Elena in the crowd and swept her into a bear hug that lifted her feet off the ground. "We did it," he whispered in her ear. "I couldn't have gotten here without you. You did all the hard work, sweetheart. I just cheered you on. You did so much more than that." Marcus set her down but kept his hands on her shoulders. "Elena, I have something important to tell you. I got the job." Elena's eyes widened. "The position at Child Protective Services, Marcus, that's wonderful. I start Monday as a junior caseworker. Janet Morrison personally recommended me, saying I had the best training anyone could ask for." He grinned. "Apparently, working with Elena Rodriguez for 6 years gives someone quite a reputation in the department." Elena felt her chest swell, with pride and something else, a deep satisfaction that came from seeing her life's work continue through someone she loved. Marcus would bring unique perspective to the job, combining professional training with lived experience of the system over. The summer, Elena helped Marcus transition from volunteer to professional colleague. She introduced him to contacts throughout the county, shared case management strategies she had developed over 15 years, and prepared him for the emotional challenges ahead. "Remember," she told him during one of their preparation sessions, "every child you meet is someone's whole world, even if they don't know it yet. Treat each case like you're handling the most precious thing in existence." Marcus nodded solemnly. "Like you treated me." "Exactly like I treated you." Marcus's first weeks on the job confirmed what Elena had long suspected. He was a natural. His ability to connect with traumatized children was extraordinary, and his thorough documentation impressed even the most experienced supervisors. Other caseworkers began seeking his input on difficult cases, recognizing his unique insights. Elena watched his professional growth with the same pride she had felt watching him learn to ride a bike or master algebra. But she also noticed troubling changes in Marcus as the months passed. The work was affecting him more deeply than she had anticipated. Late one evening, Elena received a phone call from Marcus. His voice sounded strained and exhausted. "Elena, I need to talk to someone who understands this job. Can we meet?" They met at their old spot in the cemetery, sitting beside Elena's grandmother's headstone where their relationship had begun. Marcus looked older than his 21 years, carrying the weight that came with seeing too much human suffering. "See, had a case today," Marcus began slowly. "A 5-year-old girl named Carmen. Her situation was so similar to mine. Abusive stepfather, mother who wouldn't protect her. But Elena, when I got there, it was too late. She was in the hospital with internal bleeding." Elena reached for Marcus's hand, feeling his pain as if it were her own. "I'm so sorry. Cases like that never get easier. I keep thinking, what if someone had found her sooner? What if I had been assigned her case earlier? What if I had pushed harder for an emergency removal?" Marcus's voice broke. "What if she dies because I wasn't good enough?" "Oh, Marcus." Elena turned to face him fully. "Listen to me carefully. You cannot save every child. I know that sounds harsh, but it's the truth you have to accept to survive in this work. Some children will suffer despite our best efforts. Some will not make it. That's not failure on your part. That's the reality of a broken system and a broken world. How do you live with that? How do you keep going when you know there are children out there right now who need help you can't provide?" Elena was quiet, for a long moment, choosing her words carefully. "You focus on the ones you can save. You remember that every child you help successfully changes the trajectory of a life, and possibly the lives of their future children. You remember that saving even one child, like I saved you, creates ripples that spread far beyond what you can see." Marcus leaned against the headstone, the same one he had hidden behind 13 years earlier. "Some days I wonder if I'm strong enough for this work. The fact that it affects you so deeply proves you're exactly the right person for it. The day this job stops breaking your heart a little is the day you need to find something else to do." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun set behind the cemetery trees. Finally, Marcus spoke again. "Elena, there's something else I need to tell you. I've been thinking about going back to school for my master's degree. I want to specialize in child trauma therapy. I think I could help kids process what happened to them, not just remove them from bad situations." Elena smiled in the growing darkness. "That sounds like a natural evolution of your calling. Would you help me with the application process? I know I'm asking a lot." "Marcus," Elena interrupted gently, "you never have to apologize for asking for my help. Supporting your dreams isn't a burden. It's one of the greatest privileges of my life." 6 months later, Marcus received his acceptance letter to a prestigious graduate program in child psychology. Elena was the first person he called with the news, and once again she cried tears of pride over the man the frightened little boy had become. As they celebrated that evening with the Johnson family, Elena reflected on the strange ways life worked. She had gone to the cemetery that morning 10 years ago to honor her grandmother's memory. Instead, she had found her life's greatest achievement hiding behind a gravestone, a scared child who would grow up to dedicate his life to helping other scared children. The boy she had saved was now saving others, and someday soon, he would be healing their wounded spirits as well. Elena couldn't imagine a more perfect continuation of her own life's work. Dr. Marcus Williams, now 26 years old and a licensed child psychologist with his own practice, had become everything Elena had dreamed he could be. His therapy center specialized in helping children recover from trauma, and his success stories had earned him recognition throughout the state. Elena, at 51, had been cancer-free for 7 years and was considering retirement from the Department of Children and Family Services. She had mentored dozens of social workers, saved hundreds of children, and watched Marcus build a career that touched countless young lives. She felt ready to step back and enjoy the quieter pleasures of life. But life had other plans. Elena's phone rang at 2 a.m. on a cold February night. The caller ID showed Marcus's number, which immediately sent her heart racing. Marcus never called this late unless something was seriously wrong. "Elena." Marcus's voice was tight with barely controlled panic. I need your help. Something terrible has happened. What is it, sweetheart? Are you hurt? Not me. It's about you. Elena, your ex-husband is out of prison. The words hit Elena like ice water. Robert Martinez had been sentenced to 12 years for domestic violence and stalking after their divorce 8 years ago. Elena had testified against him in court, describing months of escalating abuse that had nearly cost her life. The judge had called Robert a clear danger to society, and Elena specifically. That's impossible, Elena whispered. He wasn't eligible for parole for another 2 years. Good behavior and overcrowding led to early release. Elena, he's been out for 3 days, and he's been looking for you. My contact at the police department called to warn me. Robert went to your old apartment, then to the department asking about you. He told the receptionist he had unfinished business with his ex-wife. Elena sank onto her couch, her mind reeling. She had built a good life after Robert, finally finding peace after years of fear. The thought of him disrupting that peace, potentially threatening the people she loved, filled her with dread. Where are you right now? Marcus asked. At home. Marcus, I need to think about this rationally. No, you need to pack a bag right now. You're not staying there alone. I'm coming to get you. Marcus, you don't understand how dangerous Robert can be. Elena, Marcus's voice cut through her protest, firm and decisive in a way that reminded her he was no longer the scared boy she had once protected. You saved me 15 years ago. You gave me life, love, family, and purpose. Now it's my turn to protect you. I'm not letting anyone hurt you. Not ever. Within an hour, Marcus arrived at Elena's apartment with David Johnson and 2 off-duty police officers he knew through his work. They efficiently packed Elena's essential belongings while Marcus installed a security system on his phone that would alert him if anyone approached her building. This is all so surreal, Elena said as they drove to Marcus's house. I feel like I'm living in a nightmare. It's going to be okay, Marcus assured her. I have a security system, and my house is in a gated community. We'll figure out a long-term plan, but tonight you'll be safe. Marcus's home reflected the success of his practice, spacious, comfortable, and filled with artwork created by young clients he had helped heal. He installed Elena in the guest bedroom, then spent an hour on the phone with various contacts, building a network of protection around her. Elena lay awake most of the night, listening to Marcus moving around the house, checking locks and monitoring security cameras. The role reversal was both touching and strange. The man protecting her sleep was the same person whose nightmares she had once chased away. The next morning brought disturbing news. Robert had been seen near the elementary school where Elena volunteered, asking teachers about her schedule. He had also visited the Johnson family home, though fortunately no one was there at the time. He's escalating, Marcus told Elena over breakfast. This behavior pattern matches what I see in my most dangerous clients' family members. Robert isn't just looking to intimidate you. He's planning something. Elena felt sick. Marcus, I won't let him hurt you or the Johnsons because of me. Maybe I should leave town for a while. Running won't solve this. Men like Robert don't give up. They follow. Besides, you have a life here, people who love you. We're not letting him take that away from you. Marcus arranged a meeting with Detective Sarah Chen, a specialist in domestic violence cases who had worked with several of his clients. Detective Chen reviewed Robert's history and current behavior, her expression growing increasingly concerned. This level of obsession after 8 years suggests Mr. Martinez has been planning this entire time, Detective Chen explained. His prison records show he was involved in several violent incidents, always claiming his victims had disrespected him. Elena, you represent his greatest perceived injustice. In his mind, you had him imprisoned and ruined his life. What can we do? Marcus asked. Restraining orders are helpful but not foolproof. I can increase patrol coverage in Elena's neighborhood, but with his history of violence, I'd recommend considering relocation or enhanced personal security. That evening, as Marcus and Elena discussed their options, his phone rang. The caller, ID was blocked, but Marcus answered anyway. Dr. Williams, this is Robert Martinez. I believe you have something that belongs to me. Elena gasped, Recognizing the voice that had once whispered threats in her ear, Marcus activated the recording function on his phone while motioning for Elena to stay quiet. "I don't know what you mean, Mr. Martinez. Don't play stupid with me, boy. I know Elena is there. I know you've been hiding her. She thinks she can destroy my life and just move on like nothing happened. Mr. Martinez, you need to understand that Elena has a restraining order against you. Any contact, I don't care about your legal papers. Elena took 8 years of my life. Now I'm going to take everything from her, starting with the people she cares about most." The line went dead. Marcus immediately called Detective Chen, while Elena sat frozen with terror. "He's threatening you now," Elena whispered. "Marcus, this is exactly what I was afraid of. He's going to hurt you to get to me." Marcus knelt beside her chair, taking her hands in his. "Elena, look at me. I'm not that scared 8-year-old boy you found anymore. I'm a grown man who has faced down angry parents, violent teenagers, and dangerous family members in my work. I know how to protect myself and the people I love. But Robert is different. He's calculating, patient, and completely ruthless. He spent 8 years in prison planning this. Then we'll be more calculating and better prepared than he is. Elena, you taught me that sometimes protecting what matters most requires taking risks. You risked your career, your safety, and your heart to save me. Now I'm going to do whatever it takes to save you." As Elena looked into Marcus's determined eyes, she saw the strength and courage that had developed over 15 years of healing and growth. The boy she had saved had indeed become a man capable of saving others, including her. The confrontation came sooner than anyone expected. 3 days after Robert's threatening phone call, Elena was leaving Marcus's therapy center after helping him organize client files when she spotted a familiar figure lurking near the parking lot. Her blood turned to ice as Robert Martinez stepped out from behind a van, looking older and harder than she remembered, his eyes burning with the same rage that had once terrorized her. "Hello, Elena. Miss me?" Elena's hand flew to her phone, but Robert was already moving toward her with the predatory grace she remembered too well. "I wouldn't do that if I were you. We have so much catching up to do." "Stay away from me, Robert. There's a restraining order. There's nobody here to enforce it." Robert's smile was cold and calculated. "I've been watching this place for days. Your boyfriend has a nice routine. Stays inside until 6, then locks up and goes home to play house with you." Elena backed toward the building, praying Marcus would look outside and see what was happening. "What do you want?" "Justice. 8 years of my life, Elena. 8 years of being locked up with animals while you got to play social worker and feel good about yourself. You destroyed everything I had. You destroyed it yourself when you put your hands on me." Robert's face darkened. "I was teaching you respect, something your parents obviously never bothered with. But prison gave me time to think about proper punishment for ungrateful wives." At that moment, Marcus emerged from the building, taking in the scene instantly. Elena watched his expression shift from confusion to recognition to fierce, protective anger. He moved toward them with deliberate calm, pulling out his phone. "Mr. Martinez, I'm calling the police. You need to leave immediately." The famous Dr. Marcus Williams. Robert's attention shifted to Marcus, giving Elena a moment to breathe. "Elena's little pet project. I know all about you, boy. Foster kid, abandoned by your real parents, saved by my bleeding heart ex-wife. How touching." Marcus continued dialing without responding, but Elena could see tension coiling in his muscles. She knew that look. Marcus was preparing for violence. "You know what's funny?" Robert continued, circling closer. "Elena thinks she saves people, but look what happened to you. You're so damaged you spend your whole life trying to fix other broken kids. She didn't save you, son. She just made you as messed up as she is." "The police are on their way," Marcus said calmly. "You have about 3 minutes to leave before they arrive." 3 minutes is plenty of time. Robert's hand moved to his jacket pocket, revealing the outline of what looked like a knife. "See, I learned patience in prison, learned planning. I've been thinking about this moment for 8 years. Elena's heart hammered as she realized Robert intended to hurt Marcus to punish her. "Robert, please. Your fight is with me, not him. My fight is with everyone who kept me from you. Robert pulled out the blade, a wicked-looking hunting knife that gleamed in the afternoon sun. Starting with your substitute son here. Marcus stepped protectively in front of Elena. You're not touching her. Boy, you have no idea what you're dealing with. I've killed men bigger than you. Maybe, but you've never dealt with someone who had everything to lose by letting you hurt the person who saved his life. The next few moments happened in slow motion. Robert lunged forward with the knife, aiming for Marcus's chest, but Marcus wasn't the scared child Elena had found 15 years ago. He was a man who had spent years rebuilding himself, who understood violence from both sides, and who possessed the desperate strength that came from protecting what mattered. Marcus caught Robert's wrist, stopping the knife inches from his body. The two men struggled, crashing into parked cars as they fought for control of the weapon. Elena screamed for help while simultaneously dialing 911, her voice shaking as she reported the attack. Robert was larger and more experienced with violence, but Marcus had youth and motivation on his side. More importantly, he had something Robert had never possessed, the absolute certainty that he was fighting for love rather than hatred. The struggle continued for what felt like hours, but was probably less than a minute. Marcus managed to slam Robert's hand against a car hood, forcing him to drop the knife. But Robert recovered quickly, landing a solid punch that sent Marcus staggering backward. You should have minded your own business, kid, Robert snarled, reaching for the fallen knife. That's when Elena acted. She grabbed a loose brick from a nearby construction site and brought it down hard on Robert's reaching hand. He howled in pain and rage, turning toward her with murder in his eyes. You crazy? Marcus tackled Robert from behind, driving him face first into the asphalt. This time, Marcus didn't let up. He used techniques he had learned in self-defense classes, restraining Robert efficiently until police sirens wailed in the distance. Within minutes, the parking lot was swarming with officers. Detective Chen arrived shortly after, taking statements and coordinating Robert's arrest. The hunting knife was bagged as evidence, along with a notebook found in Robert's car containing detailed plans for stalking Elena and eliminating obstacles. This shows clear premeditation for assault and possibly murder, Detective Chen explained to Elena and Marcus, as paramedics checked Marcus's injuries. Combined with the restraining order violation and his parole status, Mr. Martinez will be going back to prison for a very long time. As the police car carrying Robert disappeared around the corner, Elena finally allowed herself to collapse onto a nearby bench. The fear she had carried for days drained out of her, leaving her shaking with relief and delayed shock. Marcus sat beside her, wincing slightly from his bruised ribs but otherwise unharmed. It's over. He can't hurt you anymore. Elena looked at the man sitting beside her, no longer the frightened boy from the cemetery but someone who had just risked his life to protect hers. You saved me, she whispered. You saved me first. 15 years ago you gave me a future. Today I was just making sure you got to keep yours. Elena leaned against Marcus's shoulder, overwhelmed by gratitude and love for this extraordinary person she had helped raise. I'm so proud of who you've become. I'm proud of who we've become. You taught me that families aren't always about blood. Sometimes they're about choice, about people who refuse to give up on each other. 6 months later, Elena attended Marcus's wedding to Sarah, a fellow therapist he had met through work. As she watched him dance with his bride, Elena reflected on the strange journey that had brought them to this moment. A scared boy hiding behind a gravestone had grown into a man capable of protecting what mattered most. The little boy she had saved long ago had indeed come back to save her when she needed it most. But more than that, he had saved countless other children through his work, each one a testament to the ripple effects of compassion. As Elena raised her glass for the wedding toast, she thought about her grandmother's headstone where it all began. Abuela would have been proud to know that her resting place had become the starting point for so much healing and hope. Sometimes salvation was a moment in a cemetery. Sometimes it was a lifetime of choosing to protect and nurture what matters most. Either way, Elena knew she had been blessed to be part of both.